Great. My name is Jacob Johnson. I am the owner of a company called Eminent Technical Solutions. We go by the simple 3 letters of ETS. I was asked by my good friends over at FBA to come speak with you guys today about ransomware and cybersecurity and have a good discussion with you guys about information awareness. Cybersecurity, ransomware, spyware, viruses, scary topic. It's terrifying. The internet is a big, scary place if you think about it sometimes. But in reality, it's not as scary as me being up here giving this talk. I don't know who thought I was qualified to actually give a talk like this. As I was sitting on the couch the other night preparing to give this presentation, my 7-year-old daughter Ruby came up to me and said, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I said, "I'm preparing a boring talk to share with some really cool people." And she said, "Oh, are you worried that they're going to be bored with your talk?" And I said, "It's highly likely, Ruby." And she said, "Well, if they're bored, tell them that they have your permission to play a video game. So if you get really bored, sit down, get out your phone, some Angry Birds, you're good to go." Okay, well, let's get moving here. We got a lot of stuff to cover. So we're going to start out with a reality check. Reality checks. Okay, first item in our reality check is, our incorrect and erroneous beliefs can lead us into dangerous territory. Truths of today might not be as true tomorrow. Things change. Don't assume that the status quo will always remain as such. I wish I could do a good Yoda impression, because this is almost Yoda-esque. Beliefs lead to emotions, and emotions lead to behaviors, and over time, these behaviors lead to habits, good or bad. Cybersecurity has a lot less to do with computers than you'd want to believe. It has a lot more to do with behavioral science. The notion of behavioral science is interesting in and of itself, because if we want to change people's behavior, we have to understand kind of the emotions and the beliefs, and we have to kind of establish what their core beliefs are. We can do reprogramming on people, or we can try and break them of their bad habits. But if we don't address what their core beliefs are, nothing's ever going to change. They're always going to probably revert back to their default behavior, be it good or bad. We're going to talk about the bad. So, the third item on our reality check is, now more than ever, we depend on information technology, and it's a big part of our daily lives. Much of our business and personal lives are part of this new digital universe that we live in. So, moving on from there, my goal out of this talk, this boring talk, get out your games, is to empower the attendees here at this conference today to identify today's cybersecurity risks and their own habits, and avoid the pitfalls that would-be hackers and criminals have laid for you guys. By the way, I am actually qualified to speak on this subject. My background and career prior to starting my companies that I run was working for the Department of Defense in information security and counter-cyber terrorism. Wasn't as cool as what Josh did. I didn't have a sword or a shield, but I traveled around the country with a laptop saying, "Don't do that, don't do that, here's a firewall." So, yeah. So let's talk about these core beliefs, the things that are important to us, or the things that we think are important. A lot of times we believe that we're not important and no one is looking for us. Keep that in mind. I don't have anything that anybody would want. And the third item is, I can't stop them even if I wanted to. These beliefs we will discuss in depth. I didn't even practice this. I'm doing okay. I'm feeling okay. Okay. So, what has changed? What has changed? We live in a world that how things were yesterday is not the same as they'll be today, tomorrow, forever. This is what a hacker used to look like, right? This was a picture of me before I lost 70 pounds, right? But in reality, this is what hackers look like today. The things that happened in the past tend to repeat themselves. It's a picture of Al Capone, a mobster. Today's hackers are more affiliated with organized crime than with angsty teenagers in their parents' basement out to prove themselves against the world, right? So keep this in mind. I want to show you a picture here, and when I do my introduction, you'll understand a little bit more about my psychology when I share this picture. I'm going to share a photo of a hacker in its natural habitat, or in their natural habitat. Here, we have a picture of a hacker in their natural habitat. A skilled individual using a set of tools to get one fish. I like to fly fish. My wife would say it's a little bit obsessive. It keeps me sane. But a hacker really is a person with a set of skills and tools, and they're really going after something pretty specific. While that individual is engaged in that activity, the other fish are safe. But what was true yesterday isn't true today. So, skills and tools coupled with automation equal, and here's our evolution. The hacker gets a bigger tool and optimizes it through automation, and the results are devastating or impactful, depending on how you want to look at it. Really, this is just a fancy way of me saying, you hone those skills, the criminals take skills that have been developed, they automate them, they take this process, and you take that notion that you're not important and nobody's looking for you, and they use this automation to reach out and find you wherever you are. They reach out and look for your vulnerabilities. They look for what would entice you or cause you to make an emotional decision, and the results can and will be devastating. I lost you. Anybody sleeping? Anybody drooling on the table? Marty, my CFO back there. Marty, wake up, Marty. Okay. Just to demonstrate this point and visually represent automation, I pulled a snippet from a piece of software we have in our Network Operations Center. And this takes that automation and applies it to something we can visually see. Because us computer nerds, we sit down and read screens and it's all text. But here's a really good visual representation. Look at this map. It's going to look like war games. We have dots flying all around, and we have IP addresses going down the side here, which are a fancy way of saying that address to get back to your network or your computer. We have countries doing attacks. We have countries being victimized, or the locations. We have the types of attacks that are occurring. This is 30 seconds of what's going on in the world right now. And this is the stuff that we can see. There's a lot of stuff that we can't see. This happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whether you care or not. Believe it or not, people are looking for you. So, why is cybersecurity important to a small business? That's what we're here to talk about. Small businesses, things that can benefit small businesses. Here come the death by chart, right? I mean, statistics. Well, I didn't make these numbers up. I went to a fairly reputable group called NIST to pull this information. Anybody here ever heard of NIST? National Institute of Standards and Technology. They spend your tax dollars to look into stuff like this. So let me explain what this chart means. When we talk about a small business, according to their definition, it's less than 250 employees. So on the chart here, 48% of people are employed by small businesses. Small businesses that exist, of the small businesses that exist, 49% of them are going to experience a cybersecurity event, or they're going to get hacked, is another way of saying it. 70% of cyber attacks that occur in today's world are focused on small business. And this is my favorite one. This is the one that should scare us or cause us to sit up in our chair a little bit. Employees that are employed inside of these businesses, 75% of the employees have habits or behaviors that are considered risky or liabilities when it comes to cybersecurity. That could be out downloading files or music or videos on company time. That could be out using computers in unauthorized ways. It could just be things that are ignorance-based, and you just don't know that you're doing something wrong. But it doesn't prevent the reality of what can occur. And maybe this one's the scarier one. Small businesses that have had a major cybersecurity related event occur, of those businesses, 60% of them will fail within 6 months. Happy stuff. Where's your video game, Angry Birds? So here's the question, and this is what you're all thinking. I'm an average person, not a cybersecurity specialist. What in the world does this have to do with me? It's important that we all understand that if we make good choices, bad choices, there's consequences. If we make bad choices, and our computers or our networks or our systems get compromised, they will do certain things. They will attack, infiltrate, and infect other systems. You could be the person that opens the gate. You could be the weak link. Once they're inside the gate, that hacker or that malware or that software can start exfiltrating sensitive data. That means taking that data and sending it to Russia or to the Al Capones of the hacker world. And you can think about what types of data that could be. It could be HIPAA, Privacy Act protected, other subject matter that you don't need distributed. They could literally be recording the keystrokes on your devices to record and steal passwords, financial information, things that you're typing in to your devices. You could be sending spam. You could be the person that's sending me ads for Rolex and Viagra. I've got enough Rolexes. So, just be careful with that. You might not even know it, but you could be the person that's creating part of the problem. And then you could be used to help illegally distribute software or copyrighted materials. You could be part of a peer-to-peer file sharing network and you don't even know about it. Bottom line though is when this happens, we overwhelm our resources, we consume time, money, effort, we could shut down the whole business. We have to think about this stuff. This is why it's important to you. So why are we attractive targets? We have a combination of different data types. Stop and think for a moment inside of your business what types of data you have and how they're used. You have shared network resources, meaning that if it infects one person, it could infect multiple people. You probably have access to massive amounts of sensitive information. Fringe benefits. My company that manages IT for hundreds and hundreds of other companies. And the bottom line is sometimes we're uneducated users as it relates to the risks at hand. So, let's talk about the solution here. And let's start delving into that whole sad but unfortunately self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, I can't stop them. There's nothing I can really do. That's not true. We're going to talk about that. So, what in the heck does this have to do with computers? Back around the turn of the century, doctors thought it was a good idea to cut you open and stick their hands inside you without washing their hands or sanitizing properly. And there was a good chance when they did that to you, you would die. Pretty ominous. But people figured out over time that if they washed their hands or gloved or put on a mask or vaccinated themselves, outcomes would improve. I'm standing in a hospital and I shouldn't probably be talking about something I'm not qualified to speak about. Any doctors in the room, nurses, please forgive me. But bear with me so you can see where I'm going with the analogy here. Each one of these items up here, be it the hand washing or the gloves or the surgical mask or the vaccinations, are part of the solution. So what we're talking about here are the ways to practice good cyber hygiene. The soap and the water are good backups and cyber liability insurance. Get good backups, back up your data, go through and figure out what's most important to you, but more importantly, don't put yourself in charge of it. Hire a professional and put them in charge of it. Make sure your backups are happening. Cyber liability insurance, it doesn't exist to give you a big pile of money when something goes wrong. That's a nice outcome, but really look for a cyber liability insurance provider that can help you rebuild and use that money to get your company back on track. For me, money's not the important thing. It's the company, the employee, the continuity for my clients, things like that. Gloves are the cloud. We need to start considering the fact that the world has shifted around us. Keeping a server or software in a closet at our office with files on our local computer, it's a bad idea. People like myself, or better yet, Microsoft or Google, they're building these massive cloud infrastructures that are highly redundant and resilient. They're better at doing this stuff than you are. take advantage of it. Okay, the surgical mask and the vaccination are the automatic patches and updates to remedy known issues and vulnerabilities. As I was sitting there trying to finish up this thing at 2 o'clock in the morning, Microsoft Office without fail popped up and said, Jake, it's time to run updates. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of this. I don't have time to tell you to install this, but you can't ignore those things. You gotta run those patches and updates. That's your vaccination. That's the way of protecting yourself from germs, known vulnerabilities. Okay, we're coming down to the home stretch here. I think I've got just a couple slides left. So basic ways to protect ourselves online. I've got a top 10 list, Jake's top 10. Okay, I can just point to the picture of the underwear because that's where you guys are looking right now. Okay, passwords are like underwear. Change them regularly. Do not leave them on your desk and do not loan them to anybody. Like it says in line item 1, set strong passwords. Don't share your password. Don't use the same password on multiple sites. Change them from time to time and if possible use two-factor authentication. Look, when you go to a website, to see if the people you're transacting with are using encryption. Look for the HTTPS at the top of the page. Don't send important data over non-secure web portals or websites. Never use a USB drive whose source you do not know. When I worked for the military, it was my favorite way to prove that I was smarter than a 2-star was to go drop thumb drives with different labels on them and see who would plug them into a computer and verify the extent of the damage that could have been done. We would drop them randomly all around military installations and we would see how far the impact would have been. You don't know where those have been. They could be the typhoid Mary or the Trojan horse that's ready to be rolled to your city gates and bring down your whole entity. Be careful when you're clicking on attachments and links in email. If you didn't expect it, don't open it. Go look, ask, check with a sender and say, did you really send this to me? Are you really stuck in China and you need me to wire you $10,000 to get you home safely? Because if you are, good luck with that. Okay, number 6, reduce and control surface area. Limit the amount of information you are sharing on social media and set strict privacy settings. All of us walk around with a target on our back. Our job is to reduce the size of that target. I feel bad even saying targets on back with Josh in the room. I hang my head a little bit. But the point is true, is the bigger the target, the easier you are to hit. If you can shrink that target, that's an important thing. My question that I'd always ask, and I know I need to wrap up here, is how many of you guys still have a MySpace account? Come on, show me your hands. You all still have MySpace, right? No, you might have had MySpace at one point, but you don't use it anymore. You go and stand up all these accounts, you use them for 5 hours, and then you forget about them. And how many times you use the same IamCool@yahoo.com email address with pink fluffy bunnies 1955 for your password? You use it on your email account, you use it on your MySpace account, you use it on all these other accounts. And then when all of a sudden the service becomes unpopular and it's not being maintained anymore, and they get hacked, and all of a sudden they have all of this cool information about you, including a common password that you're using, it will cascade. You will get hacked in more areas than just the one. It's not just about what you think brings you security, it's about doing actionable items. Okay, understand how mobile devices are changing the game. Here in my hand I hold a device that can run the networks for hospitals. It actually has the ability to log into hospitals in southern Utah. I have the ability to control Tracy's company from my phone and hundreds of other people's companies. This phone is secured. I've done things to it. I've set extensive passwords. I've put fingerprints on it. I've made sure that the programs that contain the information have multiple layers on them. One device in my pocket, a device that used to be tied to an office locked in a room in a building, now follows me wherever I go. Make sure that you understand how mobile devices are changing the game. Email habits. Be careful about what you send over email. If you work with HR, you do certain financial transactions, you need to learn about encrypted email. Come ask me about it afterwards. Back up your data regularly in case it's stolen, damaged, taken for ransom. Come talk to me about that. I'll tell you about companies here in Utah that have lost up to 5 years worth of data and their operations have shut down for up to a couple months while we put things back together. It's not just something I've made up. It's what I've built a career doing, is helping people fix the mistakes they've made. I'd rather help you grow your business in terms of technology, not help you recover from a disaster. It takes years off your life and years off my life. And if I'm not careful, I'll have less hair than Josh. So he's pretty handsome though. So I mean, I couldn't pull it off. Anyways, last item, be wary of public Wi-Fi. Never do your shopping, banking, or sending sensitive information from a device that isn't on your network or that you do not know you've got a completely secure connection. Thank you so much for your time. To sum up, let's go over these one last time. I am not important and no one is looking for me. Meh, wrong, bad idea. I'm very important and everyone is looking for me. So there's your new truth. I don't have anything that anybody would want. Right? Even if you don't have anything that anybody would want, you think they'd want, you have things that are important to you. And bottom line is you have money. And bad guys will stop at nothing to disrupt and ruin your life and then try and con you out of money to get it back from you, or to get your data back to you, which they're not going to do. They're criminals. Don't be a sucker. Okay, last item here. I can't stop them, and even if I wanted to, what would I do? I can and I will drastically reduce the risk of becoming a statistic by practicing good cyber hygiene. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. If you guys have questions, see me afterwards.